Namaste. So now continuing with the second chapter, we left off where Paraśurāma had approached Sri Dattatreya again after 12 years in the forest performing austerities in worship of Ambal. And he's prostrating himself at his guru's feet and grasping his feet, begging for the highest teaching. Now, this is a very common theme in the scriptures, Vedic scriptures, going back thousands of years, that one must approach. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, the word evabhigachet is used. And that means it's in the imperative mood. One must approach a self-realized spiritual master for instruction in spiritual life. Then why doesn't anybody do it? This is like inconceivable for me. People say they have faith in Vedas. And then they even quote this and that, or argue on the base of Vedas. In fact, there's even an expression in both Hindi and Tamil that, do I have to do what you say? Is it a Vedic injunction? Well, it is a Vedic injunction to approach Guru. But nobody does it. Or if they do with some self-interested motive. Like we have this private channel where more serious students, they're supposed to be more serious, gather and discuss different topics. And the first practice I gave was this obeisances to the Guru's feet. Does anybody do it? I don't think so. Why? And the answer is that they're too old. Once the personality crystallizes about the age of 30, maybe a little older, 32, 33, after that, it's impossible for anyone to approach sincerely a higher authority for instruction. Now, in Vedic days, people would be sent, at least the high-class people, would send their children to the Gurukula, the house of the Guru, at a very young age, 5 years or so. And there from the very beginning, they would be instructed properly in Vedic values. But today, instead, people send them to the slaughterhouse of public education, where they're trained to be good little slaves to help the elites steal money from the regular people and increase the wealth inequality in society. Because that's the purpose of public schools. If you look into the history of it, which almost nobody does, you'll find that these schools, and the curriculum and the methods and the terminology and everything were developed by industrialists in the beginning of the 20th century. Why? To furnish them with a ready supply of workers. So from the beginning, people are trained up in a certain way that's beneficial to the capitalists, but it's not beneficial for them. They lose the ability to think individually. They give up their spiritual values. And in India, actually everybody knows this is wrong, but they do it anyway. Why? Lust. They want the money. So they get the money, but they don't get the enlightenment. Because you cannot change your values after a certain age. So this is the predicament that most people are in. And this is the problem that Paraśurāma evaded. Because he was a good Brahmin. He had been brought up right. And so he looked to spiritual masters. Before Dattatreya, he approached Samvarta. Samvarta was over his head. He couldn't understand. So then he went to Dattatreya, and Dattatreya told him, oh, you have to worship Devi. You have to worship the goddess, which he did for 12 years, continuously, day and night. So this was very nice. It was very beautiful. Worship of the goddess automatically makes you happy, healthy, long-lived, and so many other good qualities. But in the end, he had to come back again and say, I missed something. The things that Samvarta told me are just over my head. They're inconceivable. So please, I know there's a higher teaching. Please reveal it to me. You see? Now, people with cheating mentality use this as an excuse, again, to evade Guru. And say, oh, I don't have to follow these instructions for worship and puja and devotion and all this. It's so troublesome. And we'll see later on the things that people misuse as arguments for this position. They say, oh, there's a higher teaching, so let's jump up. Let's go directly to the higher teaching. And people use Ramana or misuse Ramana for this all the time. Because Ramana taught on Ajata-vāda platform. So they say, see, we don't need all these rituals and rules and regulations and study and all this stuff. We can just jump up to meditation. But what happens? They fail. And they fall down. They don't succeed in the meditation because they don't have the background. They don't have the foundation. And what is that foundation? Love. Love of God. So that brings us up to this point in the story. So seeing Paraśurāma holding his feet, you can imagine tears were coming, ecstatic symptoms and so on. The master felt that he was now ready for realization, the real thing. Sri Datta, whose very being was love, said gently, O child Bhargava, lucky are you, your mind being thus disposed. Just as a man sinking in the ocean suddenly finds a boat to rescue him, so also your virtuous actions of the past have now placed you on the most sacred heights of self-realization. That Devi Tripura, who is the conscious core of the heart and therefore knows each one intimately, swiftly rescues her unswerving devotees from the jaws of death after manifesting herself in their hearts. And who is Tripura? Kundalini. The Kundalini energy lying coiled at the base of the spine. She's the core of the heart. She's an intimate part of each and every one of us. So by worshiping her, the hidden potentials are released, you see? And this is prerequisite to real self-realization. So he says, your virtuous actions of the past, your sadhana, your puja, your worship in devotion of the goddess have placed you in the position where you're now qualified. You have the adhikar for the higher teaching. This was the Vedic system, that one had to approach a guru and he would judge whether you're ready to receive the higher teaching or not, or when you were ready to receive it. And then he would give it. But But he wouldn't give it to those who weren't qualified. Why? Because that would be setting them up for failure. Today, you can just go out and buy a book or download it from the internet about any of the secret teachings of the past. So foolish, incompetent, unqualified people do so, and then they, of course, screw everything up and they fail. What can I say, I'm sitting here, and anybody who wants can approach me, but does anybody come? No. And I attained realization back in 1984. So in all this time, as far as I know, only 2 people have actually recognized my real state. And both of them are expert astrologers. They can see it in my chart. Others can't see. They don't have wisdom. As long as a man is afraid of the nightmare, obligation, so long must he placate it, or else he will not find peace. How can a man stung by that viper, obligation, ever be happy? Therefore, some men have gone mad, as if some poison had entered their blood and were torturing their whole being, while others are stupefied by the poison of obligation and unable to discriminate good from bad. Take the scientist, for example. Scientists and engineers will develop any kind of technology for anybody who pays them, regardless of whether it's good or evil. And the thing is, we don't really know. In the rush for profits, technologies are deployed before their real effects are known. A good example is DDT. DDT, oh, this is great, kills all the bugs, we can grow more crops, right? Well, yeah, and it also causes cancer and birth defects and a whole bunch of other things. But we didn't find that out until after it was widespread in the environment. And now it's in every mother's milk, even though it's been outlawed in the West anyway for years. In the East, it's still used. So, what to speak of GMOs, my God. We have no idea what the effects, long-term effects of those will be. Or plastics. Now there's microplastics in all our food. I mean, see, this is dumb. This is stupid. Why not just follow the Vedas? Reduce the population back to a sustainable level, organic farming, natural living. I mean, this is what we were preaching back in the 60s. Nobody listened. So where are we at now? Anyway. Wrongly do they ever engage in work, being deluded. Such is the plight of humanity, stupefied by the poison of the sense of obligation. Men are, from time immemorial, being swallowed up by the terrific ocean of poison. Those who, deluded with the quest for happiness, have fallen into the snares of the taskmaster of action. They are bewildered in their frenzy, and destruction awaits them. Why? Because they become entangled in cause and effect, karma. And because of that, they have to take another birth. We gave the example recently of those who sacrifice goats in the temple of Kali. And they don't understand what the deal is. The deal is, I'm killing you now, and because of that, you get a human birth in the next life. And in that life, you get to sacrifice me as a goat. So in other words, I'm going to take birth as a goat so that you can kill me in the same way. What a deal. And this is true whether you sacrifice a goat in the temple or whether you just twist a chicken's neck in your backyard like my neighbors do almost every day. They're going to have to take so many births as chickens. They're already acting like chickens because they've been eating chicken their whole life. Constant chattering. ignorant idiots. Huh? And yet they think that they're following the Vedas and that they're religious people and that they're good people and all of this. No, they're idiots. They don't even know how to respect a sannyasi. So this is the problem. See, people get caught up in cause and effect. They lose their intelligence. They lose all the results of any pious activities that they had because they get all covered up with bad karma. But you are fortunate, Bhargava, in having transcended that distracted state after 12 years of sadhana, I guess. Investigation, Vichāra, is the root cause of everything, and it is the first step to the supreme reward of indescribable bliss. How can anyone, where was it? Here we go. How can anyone gain security without proper investigation? Of course, Ramana Maharshi constantly recommended Atma Vichāra. Who am I? What am I? Where did I come from? How am I existing? What is my nature? Look into all these things. We heard the other day, someone went to a workshop and the so-called yoga teacher, after every exercise, was telling people to chant, "Who am I?" But there's a talk in Conversations with Ramana Maharshi. Actually, there's several talks in several different books where people directly ask him, are we to make japa of this question, who am I? In other words, are we to repeat it? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And he says, no. Duh. It's not japa. It's investigation. It's looking into it. It's bringing awareness into it, the question. Observing. Unflinching observance of the deepest core of the mind, the consciousness. Who am I? What am I? Whence am I? Where did I come from? And where am I going? That's the big question. People always badger me about past lives. Oh, Guruji, can you reveal our past lives? And I said, no. What you want to know about is your future life. Where are you going? Where are the actions that you're performing today? The thoughts, intentions, words, and deeds, habits, and character that you're building every day. Where is that taking you? Where is it leading you? What kind of life are you living? Where are you going in the next life? Oh, I don't know. People are so deluded because they think the only happiness is here in this world. But no, the real reward is after death in the next life. And Krishna says, Yam yang vapi smaran bhavam tang tame vaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavita. That the thoughts and actions and whatever we do in this life, up to the time of death, determines the next life. See, what happens at the time of death is that the whole life is reviewed in the mind, like a reel of tape unwinding. We used to have reel-to-reel tape recorders, and you had to reverse the tape at the end, and it made this funny sound. But that was the contents of the tape sped up. So similarly, the whole life passes before one's mind's eye at death. What kind of a life have we led? That determines the final thought that leads us to the next body. A deliberating man always shines over others. Brahma is great because of deliberation. Vishnu is worshipped because of it. The great Lord Shiva is omniscient for the same reason. Rama, though the most intelligent of men, came to disaster for want of deliberation. He means Vichāra. by attempting to capture the golden deer. Later, with due deliberation, he spanned the ocean, crossed over to Lanka, the island of the Rakshasa brood, and conquered it. And I'll tell you, the Rakshasas are still over there today. That's why I had to leave that place. Terrible people. So, I'm running out of time. We'll continue with this next time. But in other words, now Dattatreya has changed his tune. His previous advice to Paraśurāma was to go worship the goddess Tripura. Now he's saying, directly inquire. You see, it's a different method. It's what many people call meditation. But their meditation is not Vichāra. Real meditation means looking deeply into the mind and observing how everything works and seeing that it's all an illusion. It's all just a projection. Look, we've been over this time and time again. We did a whole, several videos on Buddha's Mula-pariyaya Sutta, which details exquisitely the deep functions of the mind and how it all works and how the illusion is created. The illusion, of course, is the existence of the individual, and which leads to the body and the senses and the world that we live in. And because our fabrication or construction of this individual is based on ignorance, actually 3 types of ignorance: lust, hatred, and delusion. Because of that, we experience suffering, repeated birth and death in the material world. All because we won't look inside ourselves and see how we're deceiving ourselves. So this is the cause. And Vichāra is the cure. Om Tat Sat. Oh, if you're qualified. If you're not qualified, worship is the cure. And if you're not qualified for that, then doing good works is the cure. In any case, one must follow the instructions of the Guru. Om Tat Sat. Aung Harihi Aung.